Hey, welcome back. Let everything quiet down, and we'll ease into a slow tale from ancient Rome. Night falls differently near an arena. As the sun slips below the roofs and porticos of the city, the great stone ellipse does not disappear. It lingers. Even when the crowds have gone and the gates are shut, the amphitheater remains a presence, massive, dark, and quietly alert, like an animal that never truly sleeps. During the day, it dominates by noise and movement. At night, it dominates by weight. Its shadow stretches across nearby streets, across taverns and lodging houses, across the narrow rooms where people who live off the arena settle into uneasy rest. This is the world of gladiators after dark. The streets closest to the arena change character as evening deepens. Vendors who sold bread, olives, sausages, and cheap wine during the games shutter their stalls. The wooden counters are wiped down, coin boxes tucked away, knives hidden. A few linger longer than they should, hoping to sell the last of their food to late passers-by or to guards whose watches are just beginning. The smell of cooked fat fades, replaced by the sharper scents of lamp oil, damp stone, and human waste carried slowly along the gutters. Oil lamps flicker to life one by one. Their light is uneven and weak, doing more to create shadows than banish them. In wealthier districts, lamps are mounted higher, protected by glass or metal covers. Near the arena, light is practical and temporary. Cheap clay lamps set in wall niches, carried by hand, or hung on hooks that sway when carts pass. Darkness pools between these points of light, turning alleys into blind corridors where footsteps echo and faces vanish. The noise changes too. The roar of the crowd is gone, replaced by smaller, sharper sounds, laughter spilling from taverns, dice clattering on wooden tables, arguments rising and falling in quick bursts. Somewhere a dog barks. Somewhere else, a woman sings softly, her voice slipping between buildings before cutting off abruptly. The arena district never goes fully quiet. It hums. For the city authorities, night is a problem to be managed. Curfews exist in some places and periods, loosely enforced and often ignored near entertainment districts. The night watch patrols in pairs or small groups, carrying lanterns and short weapons. Their presence is uneven. They are more visible on main roads, less so in side streets where the people connected to the arena live and work. Guards are stretched thin, and everyone knows it. Those who remain awake after dark around the amphitheater tend to fall into familiar categories. There are the guards, arena watchmen, city night patrols, private muscle hired by promoters or wealthy patrons. They know which doors must remain sealed and which can be opened quietly for the right reason. They know where bribes are expected and where they are risky. For them, the arena at night is a workplace stripped of spectacle, reduced to stone corridors, locked gates, and long hours of waiting. There are the tavern keepers and their staff. They operate on the edge of legality, selling watered wine, cheap beer, and food of questionable freshness to anyone with coin. Their customers include gamblers settling debts, laborers paid late, sex workers ending a shift, and men who orbit the arena without ever stepping into it. These taverns are information hubs. Gossip travels faster here than anywhere else, carried by drunk voices and loose tongues. There are gamblers. Some are ruined men chasing losses. Others are careful, disciplined, and dangerous. They talk softly and remember everything. On nights after the games, they argue over outcomes and payments. On nights before the games, they speculate, probe, and listen. The arena feeds them, but it also makes them desperate. There are priests and religious attendants who tend nearby shrines. Some temples keep late hours, especially those associated with protection, healing, or luck. Lamps burn before statues and altars long after sunset. A few worshippers come at night seeking privacy, believing the gods listen more closely when the city sleeps. For fighters, these shrines hold a particular pull, even if they cannot always visit them freely. And there are the gladiators themselves, or at least their presence. Most gladiators are not free to wander the streets at night. They are property, investments, and liabilities. Their bodies represent money, prestige, and political favor. Allowing them to roam unsupervised would invite disaster. Yet, even when they are locked behind the walls of a training school, they shape the night around the arena. People speak of them, people look for them, people wait for glimpses or rumors. The arena complex is more than the visible seating and fighting floor. After dark, its hidden spaces matter most. Storage rooms beneath the stands hold weapons racks, spare armor, nets, helmets, and shields stacked in careful order. Animal pens are quieter at night, but never still. The smell of straw and dung drifts upward through vents and corridors. Some animals pace. Others lie awake, sensing movement above them. Armories are sealed and guarded. Fires are banked low to avoid smoke. Tools are laid out for early morning inspections. Every piece of equipment must be ready before dawn, and the responsibility for that readiness often falls on men who work through the night. These workers know the arena in a way the crowd never will. They know which stones are worn smooth by generations of feet. They know where water leaks after rain. They know which gates stick and which hinges squeal. Nearby, training yards sit empty under the stars. The sand is raked flat, erasing the day's footprints. Wooden posts stand in silence, where blades and fists struck hours earlier. At night, these spaces feel exposed and fragile, as if violence has been paused rather than ended. Beyond the official complex, entire neighborhoods live in the arena's shadow. Lodging houses rent cheap rooms by the night. Brothels do steady business, their doorways marked by lamps and painted symbols. Street sellers hawk roasted nuts, bread, and hot drinks to late customers. Children sleep on pallets while adults whisper and argue nearby. The risks of night are well understood here. Theft is common. A drunken patron stumbling home from a tavern is an easy target. So is anyone known to be connected to the games. Pickpockets work the edges of crowds, leaving late gatherings. Burglars watch for doors left unbarred in the heat. Violence flares quickly, fueled by alcohol, envy, and old grudges. Scams thrive after dark. False promises of access to gladiators, fake betting tips, counterfeit charms said to guarantee victory. These circulate freely in taverns and alleys. Desperation makes people careless, and the aura of the arena lends credibility to almost any claim. Opportunists also look for fighters themselves. A famous gladiator is valuable even outside the arena. His name can draw customers to a tavern, lend status to a patron, or intimidate rivals. This attention is rarely benign. Fame invites manipulation, coercion, and threats, especially at night when witnesses are scarce. The character of the city matters. In a capital or major regional center, the arena district is crowded and watched. Wealthy patrons live nearby, and political eyes are always present. Nightlife is busy but controlled, at least on the surface. In a provincial town, the amphitheater may dominate the city entirely. Its influence reaches farther, and its boundaries are less defined. Guards may be fewer, rules looser, and relationships more personal. Everyone knows everyone, which makes secrecy difficult and retaliation easy. Regardless of size, the arena reshapes time. Day belongs to spectacle and preparation. Night belongs to maintenance, negotiation, recovery, and fear. It is when deals are struck quietly, when wounds are cleaned without ceremony, when men lie awake counting victories and imagining losses. For those who live and work near the amphitheater, night is not a pause. It is a continuation under different rules. The stone walls absorb heat during the day and release it slowly after sunset. Touching them at night, they feel alive, warm beneath the hand. Sound carries strangely along their curves. A footstep in one corridor echoes in another. A whispered conversation travels farther than expected. Privacy is an illusion. The arena at night watches everything. This is the threshold space where the public world ends and the private cost of violence begins. The cheers are gone, but their echo remains, pressing down on everyone who must wake before dawn to make the games possible. By the time most of the city sleeps, the arena district is still awake, breathing, waiting, and preparing for what daylight will demand next. When the outer streets finally begin to thin and the last tavern doors are barred, life inside the Gladiator School does not end. It contracts. The ludus is built for control. Its walls are high, its entrance is narrow, its internal spaces arranged to funnel bodies where they are meant to go and nowhere else. By night, that design becomes even more apparent. Torches and lamps are fewer than during the day, placed deliberately to illuminate walkways while leaving corners and upper levels in shadow. Darkness is not an accident here. It is a tool. Most gladiators sleep within the school grounds. Their quarters vary depending on the size of the ludus, the wealth of its owner, and the status of the fighters housed inside. In some schools, men are kept in small individual cells with heavy wooden doors reinforced by iron bands. In others, they share larger rooms lined with pallets or low beds, separated only by hanging cloth or the unspoken boundaries established by rank and temperament. Privacy is limited everywhere. Doors are locked at night. Keys do not stay with the fighters. Control of access belongs to the Lanistas staff, guards, senior trainers, and trusted administrators, whose job is to protect the investment sleeping behind those doors. These men work in shifts. One group retires while another takes over, ensuring that someone is always awake, always listening. They know which fighters are prone to violence, which are desperate enough to attempt escape, and which are valuable enough that their safety overrides almost every other concern. The internal hierarchy of the ludus does not disappear when the lamps are dimmed. If anything, it becomes sharper. Veteran gladiators often sleep closer to the center of the complex, nearer to training yards and medical rooms. Their value earns them better placement and, occasionally, better conditions. Newer fighters, especially condemned criminals or enslaved captives, are pushed to the margins, where supervision is easier and losses are expected. Volunteers occupy an uneasy middle ground. They have chosen this life, but that choice does not grant them freedom inside the walls. Night routines begin shortly after the evening meal. Food is distributed in a controlled way. Bowls of porridge, bread, and vegetables are handed out under watchful eyes. Meat is rare at night unless a fighter is recovering from injury or preparing for an important bout. Water is rationed but not withheld. Dehydration weakens bodies, and weak bodies cost money. Wine, if allowed at all, is heavily diluted and given only to select individuals. Drunkenness is a liability the school cannot afford. After eating, some fighters clean their own wounds. Others wait for the school's medical attendants to make rounds. These attendants are practical men. They work quickly, by lamplight, washing cuts, rewrapping bandages, checking for swelling or infection. There is no ceremony to this care. Pain is expected. Complaints are tolerated only if they point to a problem that might prevent a fighter from performing later. Serious injuries are handled in separate rooms. These spaces are quiet and deliberately isolated. A badly injured gladiator draws attention, sympathy, and sometimes resentment. Keeping him apart reduces tension and allows the school to decide his future without interference. Some men recover here and return to training. Others are quietly written off, their value reassessed in ledgers rather than conversations. Equipment checks are another nightly task. Helmets are inspected for cracks. Straps are tightened or replaced. Blades are cleaned and oiled, their edges dulled or sharpened according to upcoming match requirements. Nets are untangled and repaired. Shields are wiped down and leaned carefully against walls to prevent warping. The men assigned to this work understand that mistakes made at night become deaths in daylight. Silence is encouraged but rarely complete. Low voices carry through the corridors. Fighters talk from their beds, trading rumors, replaying past bouts, or speculating about future opponents. Some speak bravely, others speak too much. Listening is a survival skill here. Information about injuries, favoritism, or scheduling can be more valuable than strength. Conflicts do not stop just because the doors are locked. Old rivalries simmer in the dark. A careless insult whispered across a room can escalate into a fight if guards are slow to intervene. Most schools punish nighttime violence harshly. Injuring another fighter outside the arena threatens profits and invites discipline that can range from extra labor to physical punishment. Still, tempers flare. Men who face death for sport are not known for restraint. Alliances form as well. Experienced fighters often take younger men under their protection, offering advice in exchange for loyalty. These relationships are not sentimental. They are transactional and fragile. Protection lasts only as long as it is useful. At night, when training is over and exhaustion sets in, the terms of these alliances are quietly renegotiated. The Lanista rarely appears at night, but his presence is felt everywhere. Rules posted on walls or repeated endlessly by trainers govern behavior after dark. No wandering, no gambling without permission, no weapons outside approved areas. Violations are recorded and remembered. The men who enforce these rules have wide discretion. Favor can soften punishment. Disfavor can make an example of someone unlucky enough to be noticed. Some schools allow limited privileges to their most valuable fighters. A star gladiator might be permitted a private room, better bedding, or the right to keep personal items close at hand. He may be allowed to receive visitors during controlled evening hours. A patron, a lover, or a family member granted rare access. These visits are supervised, timed, and documented. Privacy, even here, is conditional. For most fighters, the night stretches long. Sleep does not come easily. The body aches from training. Old wounds throb. The mind replays past fights in unwanted detail. Men count scars, victories, and losses. They calculate odds, not just in the arena but in life. Who is rising? Who is falling? Who will be sold, punished, or favored next? Fear takes many forms inside the ludus. There is fear of injury, fear of humiliation, fear of being forgotten. There is fear of being too successful as well, of drawing attention that brings danger rather than reward. At night, without distraction, these fears surface. Not all fighters face them alone. Some pray quietly from their beds, murmuring to household gods or personal patrons learned long before they entered the arena. Others clutch small charms hidden beneath their palettes or sewn into their clothing. These objects are tolerated as long as they do not interfere with discipline. Superstition, within limits, is considered useful. The guards listen. They learn the rhythms of the fighter's breathing, the patterns of talk and silence. An unusual quiet can signal trouble just as easily as shouting. Keys jangle softly as patrols move through corridors. A lantern pauses at a doorway, light spilling briefly across sleeping forms before moving on. In larger schools, the night is segmented. Different wings settle at different times. Condemned men often exhaust themselves quickly, their bodies already worn. Veterans stay awake longer, used to managing pain and anticipation. Volunteers lie somewhere in between, minds restless with the knowledge that they chose this confinement. Outside the walls, the city continues its low hum. Inside, the ludus turns inward. By design, there is little sense of time here at night. Lamps burn steadily. Bells are silent. Fighters measure hours by fatigue rather than clocks. This disorientation serves a purpose. It weakens resistance and reinforces dependence on the school's structure. Just before dawn, activity increases again. Medical attendants make final checks. Equipment handlers complete last inspections. Guards tighten patrols as the risk of escape or self-harm rises with approaching daylight. Fighters are roused gently or roughly, depending on status and temperament. The night inside the ludus is not a pause between performances. It is the hidden half of the profession, where bodies are preserved, broken, or reshaped for what the arena will demand next. When the gates eventually open and the first light spills into the training yards, the work of the night disappears from view. The crowd will never see it. But every fighter carries it with him onto the sand. When the lamps are lowered and the noise of the day recedes, the body becomes impossible to ignore. For gladiators, night is when pain speaks the loudest. During training and combat, effort and adrenaline blunt sensation. Muscles burn, joints strain, skin splits, but movement continues. After dark, when the body is still, every injury asserts itself. Cuts throb, bruises harden, old fractures ache deep in the bone, reminders of blows taken months or years earlier. Injuries are not exceptional in the ludus. They are expected. Some wounds are obvious: gashes from blades, punctures from tridents, crushed fingers caught between shield and weapon. Others are quieter and more dangerous: torn ligaments, damaged knees, strained backs, and concussions linger beneath the surface, invisible until they end a career. At night, fighters test these injuries carefully, shifting on their pallets, flexing limbs, measuring what still works and what does not. Recovery is a practical process, not a hopeful one. Gladiator schools invest in keeping bodies functional, not comfortable. The goal is to return a fighter to the arena as quickly as possible, without risking total loss. Time spent healing is time not earning. As a result, rest is calculated, not generous. A man is given just enough care to stand, train, and fight again. Medical attendants attach to the schoolwork after dark because the night is when damage can be assessed honestly. By lamplight, they unwrap bandages applied hastily during the day. Blood-soaked cloth is peeled away, sometimes reopening wounds. Cuts are rinsed with water or wine. Salves made from fats, herbs, and resins are pressed into torn skin. Needles and thread appear when flesh must be closed. There is little anesthesia beyond alcohol, and even that is used sparingly. A fighter dulled by drink cannot report pain accurately, and pain is information. Broken bones are treated with splints and bindings. A clean break offers hope. A complicated fracture does not. The attendant's judgment matters here. Some injuries are stabilized and given time. Others are quietly marked as terminal to a fighting career. These decisions are rarely discussed with the injured man in full. He learns the truth later, through changes in routine and attention. Infections are the constant threat. The arena is not a clean place. Sand absorbs blood and sweat. Weapons pass through many hands. Even a small cut can fester. At night, attendants check for heat, swelling, discoloration, and smell. When infection is suspected, stronger measures follow: poultices, cauterization, or isolation. Survival is uncertain. Those who recover often bear scars that stiffen joints and limit movement. Sleep, when it comes, is shallow. Pain wakes men repeatedly. A turn onto an injured side sends a shock through the body. Dreams replay fights in fragments: the flash of a blade, the roar of the crowd, the moment of impact. Some men wake gasping, unsure where they are until the dark ceiling comes back into focus. Others avoid sleep entirely. They lie awake, listening to breathing around them, counting heartbeats, replaying training drills in their minds. Insomnia becomes a habit, then a problem. Exhaustion dulls reflexes. Dull reflexes get men killed. Trainers notice this, but there are few solutions. Fatigue is treated as weakness unless it can be traced to a visible injury. Diet plays a role in night recovery, though it is often misunderstood. Late meals are simple and heavy: porridge thickened with grains, bread meant to fill the stomach, vegetables boiled until soft. The goal is sustenance, not pleasure. These foods are cheap, easy to prepare, and effective at maintaining mass. Supplements are limited to what the school can source reliably. Myths about elaborate gladiator diets overlook the reality of cost and logistics. Hydration is closely monitored. Water is essential for healing, but excess is discouraged before sleep to reduce nighttime disturbances. Fighters learn to ration their own drinking, balancing thirst against the inconvenience of requesting guards to unlock doors. Small humiliations like this accumulate, reinforcing dependence on the system. When a gladiator can no longer fight effectively, the night becomes a time of reckoning. Injured men are moved to different quarters. Their training schedule changes. Attendants visit them more often, or not at all. Conversations around them shift. They hear their names spoken less frequently, replaced by talk of replacements and prospects. Some are reassigned. A fighter who cannot compete may become a trainer's assistant, a weapons handler, or a demonstration fighter for practice bouts. This work keeps him alive and fed, but strips away status. Others are sold to smaller schools or provincial arenas, where standards are lower and risks higher. For the unlucky, injury leads to dismissal. A man deemed no longer worth maintaining may be sold outright, released without support, or reassigned to hard labor. These decisions are made quietly, often at night, recorded in ledgers rather than announced. The injured man feels the consequences before he understands the cause. Pain is not only physical. There is a mental toll to living in a body that no longer performs as it once did. Fighters measure themselves by capability. When strength fades or coordination falters, identity erodes. At night, without the structure of training, these thoughts spiral. Some cope by withdrawing. They speak less, avoid eye contact, and keep to themselves during evening routines. Others become volatile, quick to anger, reckless with their own safety. Both responses attract attention from guards and trainers, rarely in a helpful way. Scars become a language of their own. Men trace them absent-mindedly in the dark, mapping past fights across their skin. Each mark is proof of survival, but also a reminder of how close survival came to ending. New scars are compared to old ones, their depth and placement judged like trophies or warnings. The quiet work of survival happens here, away from the crowd. Bandages are changed. Joints are stretched carefully to prevent stiffness. Muscles are rubbed with oil to ease cramping. None of this is dramatic. It is repetitive, methodical, and relentless. The body is the gladiator's only real possession. At night, stripped of spectacle and noise, that truth becomes unavoidable. Every ache carries meaning. Every injury forces calculation. How much pain can be tolerated? How much damage can be hidden? How long can the body be pushed before it fails completely? When dawn approaches, fighters rise slowly, testing themselves again. Some feel marginally better. Others feel worse. No one feels whole. They step into the new day, carrying the night inside their bodies, knowing that the arena will demand everything that remains. After the lamps dim and the school settles into uneasy quiet, another kind of work begins. It does not involve weapons, bandages, or training yards. It involves numbers. Gladiatorial combat is violence, but it is also business. At night, when the crowd is gone and decisions can be made without witnesses, the economic machinery that sustains the arena turns most freely. Contracts are reviewed, debts are tallied, futures are quietly negotiated. Every gladiator represents an investment. From the moment a man enters a ludus, his body is assigned a value. That value is not fixed. It rises and falls with performance, health, reputation, and demand. A strong victory before a large crowd can increase a fighter's worth overnight. A poor showing or even a rumor of injury can reduce it just as quickly. At night, Laniste and their agents assess these fluctuations. Ledgers are brought out. Wax tablets are scraped clean and reused. Names are listed alongside figures that represent purchase price, upkeep, medical costs, and expected return. These numbers decide who will be pushed into prominent matches and who will be held back or quietly moved on. Gladiators are rarely owned for a single purpose. Many are rented rather than sold outright. A school with a valuable fighter may lease him to another arena for a set number of bouts, collecting fees while retaining ownership. These arrangements are negotiated carefully. Injury clauses are debated in detail. Who pays if a man is wounded? Who benefits if he dies? These questions are settled long before the crowd ever sees the fight. Night is the preferred time for such negotiations. Promoters, city officials, and wealthy patrons meet privately after public obligations are finished. Wine is poured, but business remains sober. These men understand that spectacle depends on control. Too much risk threatens the entire enterprise. Sponsors play a quiet but important role. A prominent citizen may attach his name to a fighter or a series of games, providing funds in exchange for prestige. This patronage can take many forms: paying for better equipment, covering medical expenses, or ensuring favorable matchups. At night, these relationships are reinforced. Invitations are extended. Promises are made carefully, with room for denial later. Money also flows through less official channels. Gambling surrounds the arena like a second skin. Some betting is public and tolerated. Much of it is not. At night, bookmakers settle accounts in back rooms and private homes. Coin changes hands quickly. Disputes are handled quietly or violently, depending on who is involved. Information is currency here. Knowing that a fighter is injured, fatigued, or favored by his trainer can be worth more than silver. Rumors spread deliberately. False information is planted to manipulate odds. Gladiators themselves are rarely included in these schemes, but they feel their effects. A sudden shift in betting patterns can alter a match's stakes and consequences. Cheating is an open secret. Fixed matches are dangerous but not unheard of. The risk is high, but so is the reward. Arrangements are made carefully, often involving intermediaries to preserve distance between decision-makers and fighters. At night, these plans are discussed in coded language, tested for weaknesses, and sometimes abandoned as too risky. Payment for gladiators varies widely. Some receive a fixed share of prize money. Others are rewarded with gifts, jewelry, fine clothing, or promises of future favor. Cash payments are common, but not always direct. A fighter might find his living conditions improved, his rations increased, or his training eased. These benefits have value even if they are not counted openly. Debt is a powerful tool within the system. Fighters often owe money to their schools for food, equipment, medical care, or special privileges. These debts accumulate quietly and are rarely explained in full. At night, administrators calculate balances that ensure a man cannot easily leave even if he wins freedom. Obligation replaces chains. Some gladiators attempt to build their own reserves. They save coins from prizes or gifts, hide small valuables, or cultivate patrons who can provide support later. This is risky. Discovery can lead to punishment. Still, the desire for leverage is strong. A man who controls nothing controls his fate even less. The business of the arena extends beyond fighters. Animal suppliers, armorers, musicians, and laborers all depend on timely payment. At night, contracts with these groups are reviewed. Delays are justified, costs are cut. Quality is weighed against expense. The smooth operation of the games depends on these decisions, though the crowd never sees them. Loss is calculated as carefully as profit. A dead gladiator is not just a tragedy, he is a financial event. Compensation may be owed. Insurance-like arrangements sometimes exist between schools. These are not written laws, but customary practices enforced by reputation and threat. At night, such matters are settled to avoid public disputes. For the fighters, this world remains mostly invisible. They sense it indirectly through changes in treatment and opportunity, a sudden promotion to a high-profile bout, a quiet removal from training. Extra attention from guards. These signals reveal their standing more clearly than any spoken explanation. Night sharpens the economic reality of the arena. Without the roar of the crowd, the games are stripped of illusion. They are revealed as transactions built on risk, calculation, and controlled violence. Glory exists, but it is secondary to profit. When dawn comes, the numbers are put away, contracts are sealed. Decisions made in darkness shape the spectacle that daylight will present. The crowd will see courage and blood. Behind it all lies the quiet arithmetic of the night. When the games end and darkness settles over the city, the crowd does not simply disperse. It lingers in altered form. Fame follows gladiators beyond the arena walls, especially at night, when barriers between social classes soften and attention grows more dangerous. The men who fought before tens of thousands by day become objects of fascination, resentment, and opportunity once the lamps are lit. Gladiators are recognized. Even without armor or weapons, their bodies mark them. Scars trace familiar patterns. Their posture, their gait, and the way others react to them give them away. In taverns near the arena, a glance is often enough for whispers to begin. Names are exchanged. Victories are recalled, sometimes exaggerated, sometimes diminished, depending on who is speaking. Admiration is rarely quiet. Fans approach fighters boldly at night, emboldened by wine and anonymity. Some ask for stories. Others ask for proof, touching scars, demanding demonstrations of strength, testing boundaries under the guise of praise. These encounters are unpredictable. Flattery can turn to insult quickly, and refusal can provoke anger. Graffiti carries reputation further. Walls near the arena are scratched and painted with names, symbols, and crude images. Victories are recorded here in shorthand. Defeats are mocked. At night, men add new marks by lamplight, reinforcing or undermining a fighter's public image. These messages spread faster than official announcements, shaping opinion before the next games even begin. Celebrity creates opportunity. Wealthy admirers sometimes seek gladiators for private gatherings. Invitations arrive through intermediaries, a servant, a trainer, a fellow fighter with connections. Attendance can mean gifts, patronage, or protection. It can also mean obligation. Declining such invitations is risky. Accepting them can be worse. Paid appearances are common. A gladiator might be asked to attend a dinner, stand silently as decoration, or demonstrate techniques for an elite audience. These events are negotiated carefully by the school. Time, behavior, and compensation are set in advance. Guards often remain nearby, out of sight but within reach. Not all attention is welcome. Harassment follows fame closely. Some admirers become possessive, convinced that admiration entitles them to access. Notes are sent. Gifts arrive unasked. Jealous rivals spread rumors meant to damage reputations. At night, these threats feel closer and more immediate. Extortion is a real danger. A famous gladiator attracts criminals as well as fans. Threats against family members, lovers, or fellow fighters are used to extract money or favors. The school may intervene if its interests are threatened, but personal matters often fall to the fighter alone. Silence becomes a survival strategy. Political interest complicates everything. Local officials and ambitious elites understand the power of popular fighters. Associating with a gladiator can boost visibility and favor with the crowd. At night, conversations drift toward politics, sometimes subtly, sometimes not. A careless word spoken in confidence can be repeated publicly with consequences. Attention also reshapes relationships inside the ludus. Successful fighters draw envy from their peers. Preferential treatment, even when justified by economics, breeds resentment. At night, this tension surfaces in sharp comments, deliberate slights, or quiet sabotage. Popularity can isolate a man as effectively as failure. Some gladiators learn to manage their image. They cultivate specific personas: silent professionalism, approachable charm, intimidating reserve. Night interactions become rehearsals for public identity. Others refuse this performance, withdrawing from attention whenever possible. Both strategies carry risks. Women play a significant role in the fan culture. They attend games, commission graffiti, send gifts, and spread reputations through conversation. Their interest is not uniform. Some seek romance. Others seek status by association. Still, others treat gladiators as symbols rather than people. Night allows these dynamics to unfold with fewer constraints. Fame erodes privacy. A gladiator's movements are noted. His absences are questioned. His injuries are speculated upon. At night, when routines break down, this scrutiny intensifies. Being seen in the wrong place or with the wrong person can damage standing just as quickly as losing a fight. Violence sometimes follows attention. Drunken admirers test strength, rivals provoke fights, criminals attempt intimidation. Even when a gladiator avoids conflict, others may seek it out to prove themselves. The school punishes such incidents harshly, but prevention is imperfect. Some fighters exploit their notoriety. They trade stories for drinks, favors, or information. They listen more than they speak. They learn which taverns are safe and which are traps. Over time, they build informal networks that provide warning and opportunity alike. Others retreat inward. They avoid public spaces whenever possible, limiting exposure to reduce risk. This withdrawal protects the body but can weaken social leverage. Isolation has its own costs, especially in a system built on visibility. Night reveals the price of fame. The crowd's attention does not fade when the torches go out. It follows, watches, and waits. For gladiators, popularity is not rest. It is another arena, fought without armor, where a single misstep can undo years of survival. When dawn approaches, the admirers disperse, and the streets grow quiet again. What remains is reputation, shaped in darkness, carried into daylight, and tested the next time a man steps onto the sand. Beyond the walls of the ludus and the shadow of the amphitheater lies another arena, one with no formal rules and no referees. It comes alive after sunset. Taverns cluster thickest near the roads that lead away from the arena. By night, their doors stand open, spilling lamplight, smoke, and noise into the street. These are not refined establishments. Floors are packed earth or worn planks slick with spilled drink. Benches are rough and crowded. The air smells of sour wine, sweat, and fried food. For many who work around the arena, taverns are extensions of the games. Here, wagers are argued over long after official outcomes are known. Victories are replayed in exaggerated detail. Losses are blamed on bad luck, bribery, or divine favor turned sour. The night gives these conversations room to grow louder and more dangerous. Food is simple and constant. Cookshops attached to taverns sell stews, bread, sausages, and roasted legumes to anyone with coin. Meals are eaten standing or leaning against walls. For gladiators allowed outside the school, these places offer a brief illusion of normal life. The risk is that familiarity breeds attention. Back rooms matter more than main halls. Behind curtains or wooden partitions, quieter deals unfold. Money is counted. Promises are exchanged. Information moves from mouth to ear. These rooms host bookmakers settling accounts, thieves dividing proceeds, and intermediaries arranging meetings that should not be public. Street deals happen quickly. Alleys near the arena are narrow and poorly lit. Lamps mounted on walls leave long stretches in darkness. Here, transactions are brief and cautious. Goods are shown, prices whispered, hands exchanged. Staying too long invites trouble from guards or rivals. Bribes are part of the night economy. A few coins slipped to the right person can buy silence, access, or delay. Guards know which taverns pay reliably and which do not. Enforcement shifts accordingly. This unevenness is understood by everyone involved. Gladiators who venture out do not do so casually. Permission is required, whether formal or tacit. Escorts are common, sometimes fellow fighters, sometimes hired guards. Disguises are rare but not unknown. Cloaks drawn low, helmets carried as if they belong to someone else. None of this guarantees anonymity. Alcohol changes the balance of power. Drunk patrons misjudge strength and intent. A careless word can escalate into a challenge. A challenge can become a brawl. When a gladiator is involved, outcomes are rarely equal. Even restrained, a trained fighter can cause serious injury. The consequences are severe. Schools punish public fights harshly, regardless of provocation. Injury to a paying customer brings fines, loss of privilege, or worse. Some taverns quietly refuse entry to known fighters to avoid liability. Others encourage their presence, betting on the spectacle. Not all exchanges are violent. Information trades quietly over cups of wine. Fighters learn which promoters are unreliable, which gamblers cheat, which neighborhoods are dangerous. In return, they offer stories, warnings, or the appearance of favor. Knowledge becomes another form of currency. Sex is openly sold in these districts. Brothels, lodging houses, and independent workers operate under the cover of night. For gladiators, access to sex is complicated by status and control. Encounters can offer comfort or distraction, but they also create vulnerability. Jealousy, disease, and extortion follow easily. The city's night soundscape never settles. Dice rattle on tabletops. Laughter erupts and dies suddenly. Arguments echo down streets before being swallowed by distance. Somewhere, metal strikes stone as a door is barred. Somewhere else, footsteps hurry away from trouble. Violence flares unpredictably. A disputed bet, a stolen purse, an insult overheard. Any can ignite a fight. Knives appear quickly. Guards arrive late or not at all. Survivors learn which corners to avoid and which taverns are watched. For gladiators, restraint is survival. They must weigh every action against its cost. Winning a street fight gains nothing and risks everything. Reputation cuts both ways. Strength attracts attention. Attention invites danger. Some fighters build quiet arrangements. They frequent the same establishments, pay promptly, tip well, and avoid trouble. In return, tavern keepers warn them of threats and steer them away from bad situations. These relationships are informal but valuable. Others are reckless. They drink heavily, provoke attention, and test limits. A few enjoy the fear they inspire. Most pay for it eventually, through punishment, injury, or enforced confinement. The night teaches quickly. Those who survive learn when to speak and when to leave. They learn that every door hides a different risk. They learn that freedom after dark is conditional and fragile. As the night deepens, activity thins. Taverns close one by one, back rooms empty. Streets quiet, though never fully. Those still moving do so with purpose or desperation. By the time dawn approaches, the deals are done. Coins have changed hands. Debts have grown or shrunk. Secrets have been traded. The city exhales, preparing for daylight. For gladiators, the streets after dark offer a taste of autonomy and a reminder of its limits. It is an arena without sand, where survival depends not on strength alone, but on judgment. Night strips away formality, and with it, many protections. Within the world of the arena, sex and relationships exist under constant imbalance. Power, status, ownership, and fear shape every interaction, especially after dark, when oversight loosens and private encounters become possible. The absence of daylight does not create new desires so much as it exposes the ones already present, stripping them of restraint and pretense. Gladiators occupy an uneasy position. They are desired and restricted at the same time. Their bodies are admired publicly, celebrated in song, graffiti, and rumor, but controlled privately by contracts, guards, and schedules. Access to them is regulated by schools, patrons, and circumstance. When relationships form, they do so within limits that are rarely equal, shaped by who holds authority and who can withdraw it. Inside the ludus, intimacy is constrained. Privacy is scarce. Quarters are shared or closely monitored, doors locked, movements observed. Relationships between fighters exist, but they are shaped by rank and survival rather than romance. Dependence complicates consent. Protection offered by a stronger or more favored fighter may come with expectations that are never spoken aloud, yet clearly understood by both sides. Even silence carries meaning here. Who speaks to whom at night? Who shares food or space? Who sits nearby and who is avoided? All of these details are noticed. Rumors grow from small gestures. Affection displayed openly can invite punishment or resentment, while secrecy breeds suspicion. Outside the school, dynamics shift but do not equalize. Fans pursue gladiators with intensity, especially at night, when social boundaries soften and anonymity emboldens behavior. Some seek genuine connection or comfort. Others seek proximity to fame, believing admiration grants entitlement. Many are drawn to the danger itself, mistaking risk for intimacy. These encounters often begin with praise and end in negotiation, explicit or implied. Patronage blurs boundaries. A wealthy admirer may offer gifts, money, protection, or influence in exchange for attention or intimacy. These offers are rarely framed as demands, yet refusal can jeopardize a fighter's standing. Acceptance can create obligations that persist long after desire fades. Such arrangements are seldom documented, but they are widely understood and quietly enforced. Women participate in the arena economy in many roles. They sell food, provide lodging, offer entertainment, manage taverns, arrange introductions, and operate brothels. Some act independently. Many do not. Their proximity to gladiators places them in positions of both opportunity and danger. At night, when transactions are less visible and accountability weakens, these risks intensify. Sex work is openly integrated into the district. Brothels operate with tacit approval, their lamps marking known locations. Independent workers solicit near taverns and lodging houses, relying on familiarity with the streets to stay safe. For gladiators, these encounters offer distraction, routine, or a sense of control over at least one choice. They also carry risks of disease, jealousy, manipulation, and exploitation. Schools monitor outcomes closely, intervening when complications threaten performance or reputation. Relationships with free partners are fragile. A gladiator's schedule is unpredictable. His availability depends on permission, health, and favor. Injuries and confinement interrupt contact without warning. Partners outside the system must accept long absences, broken arrangements, and uncertainty. Many leave and return repeatedly, drawn back by affection, fascination, or hope. Jealousy is a frequent source of conflict. Rivals compete not only in the arena but in personal relationships. Attention becomes a measure of worth. A perceived slight can escalate into threats or violence, especially after dark when alcohol dulls restraint. Schools punish these incidents harshly, but prevention is imperfect and resentment often survives punishment. Pregnancy introduces serious consequences. Women associated with gladiators face social, legal, and financial risk. Schools may deny responsibility or sever contact. Patrons may withdraw support. Outcomes depend heavily on status, favor, and discretion. Decisions are made quietly, often at night, to avoid public scrutiny and damage to reputations. Disease is a constant concern. Sexually transmitted illnesses spread easily in dense districts where movement is frequent and secrecy common. Symptoms can sideline a fighter or expose him to ridicule. Medical attendants address these issues pragmatically, prioritizing containment and readiness over comfort. Shame is irrelevant. Performance is what matters. Consent is not a simple concept here. Enslavement, debt, and patronage distort choice. What appears voluntary may be shaped by fear, obligation, or survival. Night conceals these pressures without removing them, allowing unequal arrangements to continue without challenge. Some gladiators attempt to control their personal lives strictly. They avoid entanglements, limit encounters, and refuse gifts that create obligation. This discipline protects autonomy and reduces risk, but it isolates them socially. Loneliness becomes another cost of survival, felt most strongly in the quiet hours. Others accept entanglement as inevitable. They navigate relationships strategically, weighing benefit against danger. Emotional detachment becomes a learned skill. Boundaries blur over time. Few emerge unscathed, even when they believe they are in control. Power imbalances persist even among admirers. Fame does not grant equality. It attracts attention from those who already hold influence and resources. At night, these dynamics unfold in private spaces where refusal carries consequences, and acceptance creates records of obligation that can be invoked later. The emotional toll accumulates quietly. Affection becomes conditional, trust erodes. intimacy is rarely safe or uncomplicated. Fighters learn to compartmentalize, separating the body that is desired from the self that must endure. By dawn, these encounters leave little visible trace. What remains are obligations remembered, boundaries tested, and tensions carried forward into the next day's training. Nothing is resolved. It is merely postponed. After dark, relationships offer warmth and risk in equal measure. For gladiators, intimacy is never separate from power, and night makes that truth impossible to ignore. When night deepens and the streets quiet, many turn toward the divine. For gladiators, religion after dark is not ceremonial. It is intimate, anxious, and practical. The gods are approached not as distant ideals, but as forces that might intervene, or at least be persuaded to look elsewhere. Formal temples often close at sunset, but religious life does not end with locked doors. Household shrines glow softly in nearby homes. Small street altars remain accessible, their lamps tended by passers-by or local caretakers. In the arena district, offerings appear quietly at night, a pinch of grain, a coin, a scrap of meat, a whispered vow. These acts are brief and deliberate, meant to avoid attention. Gladiators carry personal beliefs into the darkness. Some follow the gods of their birthplace, clinging to familiar names learned in childhood. Others adopt deities associated with strength, protection, healing, or luck. Belief is flexible. Survival demands it. A man may pray to multiple gods without contradiction, hedging his fate wherever possible. Charms and amulets are common. Small objects are worn on cords, hidden beneath clothing or tucked near bedding. Teeth, carved stones, bits of metal, scraps of inscribed wood. Each carries meaning known only to its owner. Schools tolerate these items unless they interfere with discipline. Superstition, when controlled, is considered useful. Night intensifies superstition. Dreams are read as signs. Sudden noises are interpreted as omens. A lamp guttering at the wrong moment can unsettle an entire room. Fighters share these observations in low voices, reinforcing each other's fears and hopes. Rational explanations matter less than emotional impact. Before important bouts, rituals multiply. Some men fast or avoid certain foods. Others refuse intimacy, believing it drains strength. A few repeat precise routines, washing in a specific order, tying straps a certain way, sleeping on one side. These habits create the illusion of control in a profession defined by uncertainty. The act of killing leaves residue. Even when sanctioned and celebrated, taking a life affects the mind. At night, without distraction, memories return uninvited. The face of an opponent, the sound of breath stopping, the moment the crowd roared approval. These recollections surface unevenly, troubling some men deeply while leaving others outwardly unmoved. Coping takes many forms. Some fighters speak openly with trusted companions, replaying events until they lose sharpness. Others withdraw, refusing to discuss past bouts. A few seek absolution through ritual, offering thanks for survival, or asking forgiveness for actions they believe require it. There is no shared moral framework. The arena rewards killing under specific rules. Outside those rules, violence is condemned. This contradiction creates tension. Fighters navigate it individually, drawing lines that make sense only to them. Night is when those lines are examined. Funerary realities shape belief. Death is common enough that its logistics are well known. Fighters understand what will happen if they fall, whether their body will be claimed, whether rites will be observed, whether their name will be remembered. Patron-funded burials offer dignity. Anonymous disposal offers erasure. These possibilities weigh heavily at night. Some schools encourage limited ritual. Allowing fighters to honor the dead or prepare spiritually can stabilize morale. Controlled observance reduces unrest. Excess is discouraged. Grief, like everything else, must remain manageable. Fear is not constant. but it is persistent. It surfaces in quiet moments, in pauses between breaths, in the hours before sleep. Fighters learn to coexist with it. Some reframe fear as readiness. Others accept it as the price of survival. The gods do not answer clearly. Prayers go unanswered as often as they are fulfilled. Victories and deaths follow no obvious pattern. This ambiguity does not weaken belief, it deepens it. Uncertainty keeps the divine relevant. By dawn, lamps burn low. Offerings remain where they were placed. Vows linger unfulfilled. Fighters rise, carrying both hope and dread into the coming day. After dark, religion is not about salvation. It is about endurance, memory, and the need to believe that what happens in the arena is seen by something greater than the crowd. The night before the games carries a different weight. Even in districts that never fully sleep, a hush settles closer to the arena. Activity does not stop, but it becomes deliberate, restrained, as if the city itself understands what morning will bring. Security tightens first. Movement around the amphitheater is restricted. Gates that are sometimes left open are barred. Guards increase patrols, lanterns appearing at regular intervals along corridors and exterior walls. Lists are checked and rechecked. Names matter more tonight than on any other. Inside the ludus, freedom narrows. Fighters are kept closer to their quarters. Excursions into the city are canceled or heavily supervised. Even favored men feel the limits close in. This is not punishment, it is risk management. The night before the games is when escape attempts, self-harm, and violence are most likely. Equipment is inspected repeatedly. Helmets are lifted and set down again. Straps are pulled tight, loosened, and retied. Weapons are weighed in the hand, their balance tested one last time. Any flaw, however small, becomes significant. A cracked rim or frayed thong can mean death. Opponents are discussed quietly. Rumors circulate through the corridors. Someone claims to have seen a rival favoring an injured leg. Another insists a trainer is hiding weakness. Fighters listen without reacting, sorting truth from bravado. Knowing too much can be as dangerous as knowing too little. Some men rehearse mentally. They lie awake picturing sequences of movement, imagining the opening exchange, the first clash of metal, the moment distance collapses. This rehearsal is silent and intense. It offers focus, but it also sharpens anxiety. Others avoid thought entirely. They distract themselves with conversation, jokes, or card games permitted under watch. Laughter sounds forced. Silence returns quickly. Distraction works only briefly before the mind drifts back to what cannot be avoided. Last meals are plain. Food served on this night is chosen for familiarity rather than nourishment. Anything that might upset the body is avoided. Fighters eat slowly, aware that appetite may not return after dawn. Letters are written. Some men scratch messages onto wax tablets or scraps of parchment. A few dictate to scribes if they are allowed. These notes are short. Instructions, apologies, names. Not everyone has someone to write to. Those who do not sit quietly, pretending indifference. Prayers intensify. Vows are made with specificity. Promises of offerings, abstinence, or public thanks are whispered into the dark. Some bargain desperately. Others pray only for a clean death, if survival is not granted. Sleep is fragmented. Guards move through corridors more often, their lantern light breaking the darkness. Bells or horns may sound softly as watches change. Every noise feels amplified. Dreams, when they come, are sharp and brief. The city mirrors this tension. Vendors prepare goods for the morning rush. Bakers work through the night. Animal handlers tend restless beasts. Gamblers finalize positions and settle last-minute disputes. Everyone who profits from the games feels the pressure of the coming spectacle. Elite households plan carefully. Seats are assigned. Guests are invited or excluded. Clothing is laid out. Attendance is a statement of status, and mistakes are remembered. These preparations happen quietly, away from the public eye, but their influence reaches the arena. Fear and anticipation coexist. Even experienced fighters feel it. Veterans know exactly what is at stake. Novices imagine possibilities without precedent. Confidence and dread overlap until they are indistinguishable. Just before dawn, activity spikes. Medical attendants make final rounds. Fighters are roused. Equipment is distributed and reclaimed, then distributed again. Orders are given softly but firmly. There is no shouting. Control matters more than speed. The night ends without resolution. Nothing is decided yet, but everything is set in motion. Choices made in darkness. What to eat, what to say, what to promise, will shape the hours to come. As the sky lightens, the city exhales. The long night before the games releases its hold, handing gladiators and spectators alike to the judgment of daylight. Dawn does not arrive gently near the arena. As light spreads across stone and sand, the city shifts again. Night's bargains, fears, and private rituals give way to public consequence. What was whispered in darkness now carries weight, shaping outcomes that cannot be undone. For gladiators, the morning reveals what the night has decided. Bodies respond unevenly. Some fighters wake feeling steadier, muscles loose enough to move cleanly. Others rise stiff and aching, injuries aggravated by restless sleep. There is no adjustment period. The day advances whether they are ready or not. Punishments and rewards surface quickly. A fighter who broke rules after dark may find privileges revoked or training intensified. Another who pleased a patron or avoided trouble may receive subtle advantages, better equipment, a favorable matchup, or a delay that allows extra recovery. These changes are rarely explained. They simply appear. Consequences extend beyond the individual. Nighttime disputes ripple outward. A brawl in a tavern can sour relationships between schools. A failed bribe can bring scrutiny. A promise made to the wrong person can reappear at the worst moment. By daylight, these effects are visible, even if their causes remain hidden. Careers reveal their trajectories slowly. Some gladiators are clearly rising. Their names circulate more often. Their schedules fill. Investment increases around them. Others plateau, fighting often but without advancement. A few begin to fade, injuries accumulating faster than victories. The night accelerates these paths, sharpening distinctions. Freedom remains distant. Victories bring rewards, but release is rare and conditional. Even those who earn symbolic freedom often remain tied to the arena by debt, obligation, or lack of alternatives. The choices made after dark, alliances formed, favors accepted, tighten these bonds. The arena's influence spreads through the neighborhood. Shopkeepers profit or suffer based on the game's success. Guards adjust patrols. Officials take credit or shift blame. Corruption thrives quietly, justified by necessity and tradition. Night decisions feed daytime order. For those who leave the profession, the shadow lingers. Former fighters carry visible marks that shape how they are treated. Some find work training others or guarding property. Many struggle to adapt, their skills narrowly suited to violence. The habits of night, alertness, suspicion, restraint, remain long after the arena is gone. Memory outlasts spectacle. Crowds remember victories, not the cost paid in darkness. Stories simplify. Names become symbols. The complexity of what happened at night fades quickly, replaced by narratives that fit public taste. As the day progresses, the city settles into routine. The arena empties. Streets return to ordinary traffic. The intensity dissipates. Only those closest to the games feel the full weight of what has passed. By evening, preparations begin again. The cycle does not end. It pauses. Night will return, bringing negotiation, fear, intimacy, and calculation back with it. After dark, gladiators live the part of the profession the crowd never sees. That unseen world shapes everything that happens in the light. If this exploration of life after the arena deepened your understanding of the ancient world, take a moment to like the video and subscribe for more stories. And let the next night in history begin.